So everywhere I look at the moment, there are prompt templates, there are steal my prompt, there are copy paste this prompt for ChatGPT, and it's driving me insane. Prompts are extremely personal. They're about who you are. They're about who you want ChatGPT to be acting as within that prompt. They're about the very specific outputs. They're about your product, your service, your specific audience. So one copy-paste prompt can't possibly work. If you're using the same prompt as someone else, you're gonna get the same output as someone else. It's as simple as that. So your prompts need to be as individual as possible. There are 6 steps to creating a powerful prompt. So I'm gonna take you through each of these steps, and that will help you learn how to generate your own. So no more copy pasting, no more steal my prompt. Learn how to do it from the ground up, and you'll have really, really strong prompts that will get really strong results. Step number 1 is who am I? So this is where you're going to tell ChatGPT exactly which part it plays in the role of creating this result for you. It's also known as the act as prompt as well. So you need to tell ChatGPT who it actually is. Remember, it's starting completely from scratch. It doesn't know who it is, it doesn't know the context, it's a blank sheet of paper. So it's really important to tell it exactly where it should be gaining its perspective from. So for example, you can act as a content marketing expert if you're looking for something to do with content marketing. You can act as William Shakespeare if you wanted a Shakespearean response. You can give it with whatever characteristics you want. So you can be really, really specific. So you can say, act as a professor of physics with 20 years experience working in specific field. I can't think of a single physics field at the moment, but think of very specific characteristics, very specific experiences that person might have, and that helps ChatGPT draw from the correct banks of information. Tip number 2 is who are you? So now ChatGPT understands who it is. Now it needs to know, and now it needs to understand who you are. So bear in mind you're typing it. It doesn't have an information sheet about who you are. You don't fill in loads of questions when you set up a ChatGPT account. So it doesn't know who you are and what context you're actually using this information. So you need to tell it who you are. So that might be who you actually are. It might be a character that really accords with what you're trying to create. So imagine you're trying to create let's take me for example. So I would say to ChatGPT, act as a content marketing expert. I am director of a content strategy agency, and I'm looking to create a blog about this. That's not the end of the prompt, by the way. Make sure that you're telling it who it is and who you are. So you're starting this conversation, you're giving an idea and a design for the conversation to start off with. Step number 3 is what's the point? So what is the whole purpose of creating this piece of content? So let's use that same example. Act as a content marketing expert. That's ChatGPT's role. I am a director of a content strategy agency. That's my role. That's who am I? Step 1, step 2. Step 3 is what is the point? So that is, I'm creating this blog because I am trying to attract the attention of marketing directors at law firms, for example. So it gives the whole piece some context, and it allows ChatGPT to understand the purpose of why it's creating something. So it's going to create something of a better quality. Point number 4, give it some style. It's really important to give it style, language, tone of voice. The generic tone of voice that AI will give you is really bland and corporate. So that's why a lot of people say things like, oh, it's rubbish, don't bother with it. It just gives you really generic responses. It'll only give you generic responses if you give it generic prompts. So if you don't tell it what language to respond in, what type of tone of voice to respond in, it's just going to give a very basic response. So tell it what type of tone of voice you'd like. So would you like something really warm and friendly, conversational, quirky, interesting, funny? Would you like something really engaging, which is obviously most of us would like to have? Would you like it to be quite serious, quite corporate, quite cold, quite removed, professional? There's so many different things you could use. Use as many of them as possible. Top tip, if you're not sure what tone of voice you want, find somewhere where they do use a tone of voice that you want. Copy paste it, put it into ChatGPT and ask it what the tone of voice for that piece of work is. Then use that in your prompt. Step number 5 is provide the missing bits. So currently ChatGPT in its current form, so if you've got 3.5 or even if you've got 4, it cuts out in September 2021. So it doesn't know anything after that. It does not have access to the internet unless you have plugins, which I've just got today and I'm super excited, but they're not working, so I can't even use it yet. yet, so I'm very frustrated. But ChatGPT 4 and ChatGPT 3.5 its knowledge stops at September 2021, and it cannot access the internet, so it doesn't know anything after that. So you need to provide any missing bits of information. It also can't read PDFs yet. Again, with the plugins it can, but I can't use it, so again, frustrating. You can copy paste information into your prompt. So make sure that you're filling in the gaps. So anything post September 2021, any specific bits of information that it should know. Maybe it's a PDF that's crammed with information, copy paste that straight into your prompt and tell it that it needs to take that into account. So provide those missing bits. And then finally, step number 6, specific outputs. So you need to say exactly what you're looking to get. So if you would like to get a debate between 2 characters, be really specific about who those characters are. If you're looking to get a table, ask it to output in table format. Though the problem with that is that it's not a copy-pastable table. It looks like one, it's really easy to read, but you can't copy-paste it very easily. You can tell it to format it in Markdown, which structures it really nicely for you. That will copy-paste over. It could be a list of bullet points. It can be a document of information. It can be a numbered list of recommendations. It can be whatever you want it to be. So let's just quickly talk about tokens. So a token is around about 75% of a word. Annoyingly, one token doesn't equal one word. But a token is what your responses are made of. So the first version, ChatGPT 3, gave you 2,049 tokens per prompt and response together. ChatGPT 3.5, which is the free one that most people are using right now, gives you 4,026 tokens. ChatGPT 4, which is the paid version at the moment, gives you 8,000 tokens, and there's a 32,000 version coming soon. So that includes the length of your prompt and the length of your completion. So bear in mind there are limits. You can't copy paste really long documents or expect really long answers. That's really important to remember. So here are a few different output types that might be of interest. So there are lots and lots of different types of outputs. One of the main ones would be information and research. One of the strongest outputs is explanations. So just give it something complex and it's going to break it down for you really easily. There's also fictional writing. So I've been dabbling with this at the moment. It can create something really quite imaginative. It's a bit scary. So yeah, just try it with a bit of a story and see, give it a couple of sentences. You do a sentence, ChatGPT does a sentence, you do a sentence, they do a sentence, and it goes on and it just becomes this really strange story. It's a really easy way to lose a few hours. You can get character-based opinions as well. So if you're being a little bit unusual, if you're having a little play, you can ask it to respond as a certain celebrity or a historical figure. That's quite interesting sometimes. Repurposing is really useful, especially from a content marketing context too. So if you give it, say, a social post, a LinkedIn post, and ask it to repurpose it into a Twitter post, obviously don't just give it that, give it a proper prompt. Remember, you must always do all 6 steps still. So remember to say, please repurpose this into a Twitter post for this reason. You can also have conversation simulations. So you can ask it to have a conversation with you and it will start asking you questions and you can do a lot of back and forth. So people are starting to use this in the field of mental health, which is quite interesting. So we'll see how that goes. I'm a little bit dubious as to how that might go. I think it might be a little bit on the risky side, but we'll see. You can also have multi-character debates. So it's not just about one person prompting another person. You can have multiple characters within a debate. So there's something called super prompting, which I'll do a separate video on. But a shorter version is you can set 3, 4, 5, 6 characters and ask them to debate a topic and just sit there and watch it happen. So you'll see from each of their perspectives how it all works. It's really good fun. I suggest you give it a try. GPT is really good at language translations as well. So just ask it to translate into whatever language and it's generally a pretty good result. So now let's put it all together. So at the top, we've got the who are you section. Next, we've got the who am I and the purpose. Then you'll see in this next paragraph, we've got the style and the tone of voice. Here, we're adding all those missing bits that we were talking about. And then finally, we have a really specific output. I've asked for exactly what I'm after. So there you have it, a 6-step guide to generating a really powerful prompt.